times that entrepreneur teaches that larger company something about their own business. So you've got to create an environment where those people can get together. And so what we did is we have 6 community leaders that came together to form what we're calling the Augusta Innovation Zone. It's 2 buildings on Broad Street and 8th Street, so just down the road from here. And the idea, again, is to have a place where someone that wants to come and start a company can come, just as much as somebody that has 200 employees from a technology company can base, and where we create that ecosystem where they can all start working together and grow an environment that takes advantage of some of the things that are happening at Fort Gordon. On the other end of the spectrum, the group I'm with, Maybom, we're a real estate development company. We have a big development in Columbia County called the Plaza at Evans Town Center. And the reason and the real purpose of that is we're going to have tens of thousands of square feet of professional space that's Class A office space. That's something that is generally lacking in our community right now, and people that are coming from Maryland or San Antonio or California are used to having really nice, modern, open floor plans in which to work. And so I'm trying to meet that need, and what I was able to see in Atlanta is you can't just focus on one spectrum or the other, you got to focus on both. And so those are a lot of things that I'm working on, and a lot of me and my partners are working on to try to create, is to say, look, no matter where you fall, whether it's cybersecurity, technology, or one of the other areas that GB was talking about, your needs can be met here. And when you combine that with the low cost of living and all the amenities that are here, being 2 hours from the beach, 2 hours from the mountains, and a beautiful river down the middle, it's pretty awesome. And so what we want to make sure is that we tell the right story and that we have an actual home for those people when they come here and that they want to stay.
Very good. Todd, throw a question at you a little bit. You've had the chance to explore cybersecurity, growth of communities globally. What best practices, similarities do you see with other communities that are out there that have done things right, and are we on track to do that right for business here?
Yeah, so I got a couple of notes because I want to be a good steward of time, and I'm an associate pastor, and so I could really go on because I get excited and motivated. So we are seeing some good things. So some best practices. We talk about attracting talent, and that's important. You have to have something to begin with. But I see the community galvanizing that we're not going to be saved by attracting talent. We're going to be saved by creating the ability to create our own talent. So investments within the local community. Back in 2015, with the military background, what was interesting is being overseas for so many years, I never really got to know some of the community schools. My children, my 2 sons, they went to DoD schools overseas. And so they didn't have a choice, that's where they went. And so what I do know is in the military, when you're in contact, whether you're signal, cyber, military intelligence, aviation, doesn't matter, you all come together as separate tribes because you know where the activities are and you know where you need to focus. But when we come back home, sometimes we forget that and we get in our own little tribes and we don't talk to one another. And what excited me is that the local community sees that they're in contact, that this is an opportunity, and it's been said that the opportunity of a lifetime must be taken in the lifetime of the opportunity. And so the local community saw that, and I didn't realize until after, and it's really from speaking to other folks that have seen other communities, how that's not normal case. When Columbia County and Richmond County and Aiken and all the other counties that you see, McDuffie and Lincoln, all start saying, hey, we got to come together. We got to solve this holistically. We got to pull ourselves together. And so that was very important. I read some statistics this morning that the nation is about 300,000 cyber people. And if you talk to 2 people and ask them for a definition of a cyber, you'll probably get 3 definitions back, because one person will waffle even what they're telling you. So whatever the context was, we're 300,000 short, estimated to be 1.8 million in 2022. I don't know if those are good numbers or not. I think those numbers are far too big. And the reason why they're far too big is because there's far too many problems within IT, coding, and it's just, we haven't professionalized it. And so I'm seeing things like the NIST NICE framework come together to better professionalize that so that we don't have the vulnerabilities. You wouldn't need as big a cybersecurity workforce if we didn't create them in the beginning. Now, you don't want to stifle the innovation, so that's happening as well. so to see that come together. The word virus has had a negative connotation for a long time, but today we get excited when something goes viral. But just as less desirable conditions in one neighborhood can infect another neighborhood and bring it down, good conditions in a neighborhood can be used to bring up other neighborhoods. But you need a carrier. So who's the carrier? And what I see represented here is a lot of carriers. They are willing to go outside of their office, outside of their homes, and be that change. And there's a book that talks about being salt and light. And there are two different aspects, I saw a lot of light when I came here, because when you're light, you shine and you show, here's some good things, here's some bad things. And it's real easy to get caught up in those and to talk about those. But I see a community that's moving past that, and they're becoming the salt. You see, light can stand back and shine and doesn't have to get infected. It isn't a carrier, just points it out. But salt is no good until it actually contacts that which is going to change. And see, I see a lot of, carriers and salt and change agents. Fort Gordon is, and I appreciate that Fort Gordon may be the beginning catalyst for this to happen, but Fort Gordon can't do this on its own. We're quickly surpassing our ability on Fort Gordon to just be within our fence line and take care of our mission sets. We need an entire community that we feed to and feed from. There's a fence that goes around the fort, we understand that, but there can't be a fence in the Fort Gordon Cyber District. We need to work together. One of the things I think gets underplayed, and the military does this as well, and probably for good reasons, is so we are producing cyber soldiers today. We had the opportunity on Monday, we graduated the very first advanced individual training course. So if you haven't been in the military, that's the lowest enlisted course. That's a first enlisted course. And so now we're full up and running all of our courses. So we have folks that lived in communities just like this that joined the Army, went to basic training, they went to their phase 1 training, they're here at Fort Gordon, and they're going to become part of the Army Cyber Branch. Now, when we first started creating our curriculum and go looked at, a lot of people said, if you train them to do this, you know that you're going to lose them. Well, yeah, what if we don't train them and they stay? we got to do that. And we recognize in the military there's actually a pyramid. We couldn't keep them all. And so we've got a class of privates that are going through right now, about 20 strong. Well, in 16 to 17 years from now, I can't have 20 sergeants major. It just doesn't work that way. And so we're going to see the Army keep about 30% of those. And they'll go on for a full career in the Army, as I was blessed to be able to do. We'll see about 30% of those that'll go into other agencies, 3-letter agencies like NSA Georgia, who's a great partner and community partner, and some of the others. We'll see some go into organizations that were represented by some of the industry partners that you saw here as well. And so we will be producing a workforce as well, but we can't be the only ones that do that. And so working with the local schools and all that comes together, I appreciate that there's 2.3 jobs on the outside for everyone that we create. So we need to, I don't know who the 0.3 person is, so I'm sorry to be that person. But what an opportunity we have here today.
Thank you. Great segue into the next topic we're going to talk about. What are some of those opportunities? How many in the room actually live in the greater Augusta, Fort Gordon Cyber District area? So everybody already knows how great this is. So your job after this video is to go share it with everybody else in here, making sure they understand some of those opportunities as well. And I think what you'll see in this video is the business community's already seeing this. The people who are transitioning into the community are seeing what we already know. And there are a lot of opportunities for everyone, no matter what you prefer to do, where you prefer to live.
Yeah, the growth that's coming to the Fort Gordon Cyber District is not just what's behind Gate 1. There is certainly a lot of new commands coming, more people and staff coming to those commands, but cyber is transforming all aspects of the communities both, 2 states, 7 counties, this whole Fort Gordon Cyber District is all going to be elevated. There's over $1 billion worth of construction going on and improvement projects going around in the community just to facilitate all these new people that are coming to move here. So more construction jobs. The families that are moving here have kids that go to school, so more school jobs, more money for schools. They like to go out and have a good time, so there's more restaurants and take advantage of the parks and the recreation facilities throughout the entire 2-state, 7-county region. All of that has a real benefit to anybody. So anyone can get into the cyber world. We don't care about anything as long as can you code, are you smart about security, and everything else. There's a role for people. So we're able to really take people from all walks of life and get them into the business down here. So if you want to get into cyber, Augusta, Georgia, and the Fort Gordon Cyber District is the place to live in order to find a career within cyber. And if you're not in the cyber space specifically, you're still going to benefit. Most of the activity that goes on at Fort Gordon is 7 by 24. And we don't mean that there's somebody that just keeps the lights on at night. It means there's 3 separate shifts that work continuously around the clock with thousands and thousands of people on each shift. So if you run a business, a dog walking business or a bakery or a coffee shop, and you're normally open during the daylight hours, you can double your business and cater to those night shifts or cater to the 3rd shift. So there's all sorts of additional growth that's available throughout the Fort Gordon Cyber District because we're getting all these well-paying jobs, all these career jobs opening up right here, and it's a place where people can really, work, live, and play right here in Augusta.
Yeah, I think Augusta has a lot to offer. Mountain biking, four-wheeling, kayaking, boating are all minutes away. There's a thriving art scene downtown, plenty of restaurants to choose from. Well, every Friday, or first Friday of the month, Le Chat Noir, a local theater, has an improv show my wife and I like to go to. There's a lot of great restaurants, a lot of farm-to-table restaurants. We go four-wheeling pretty much every other weekend at a park outside of Fort Gordon, and boating, kayaking, stuff like that at the lake. Do your research. Don't just Google Augusta and look at the first thing that comes up. There's a lot of opportunity here, great school districts, very affordable housing, very good and great sense of community. As a former Marine, veterans are very supported, and having the VA very local is a great benefit as well.
The neat thing is you have the chambers of commerce, you have the local higher learning institutions, and you have your local school districts, you have local businesses that are outside DoD, and you have your contract, federal contract workforce and the government workforce here that are all working together to try to create an environment where you can grow the talent locally, you can attract it to come to this area, and you can support it with good jobs that really mean something, where you're doing something that matters. Well, I think the simple thing is this is a great place to live. And of course, you have all this high-tech happenings here, and part of it is as that starts to grow and the community starts to respond and we grow this area, it's good for high-tech families because that's how families work. They want to do what their dad did or their mom did, and they want to follow in their footsteps. And we're creating an environment here where they can stay close together in a small community and grow. But at the end of the day, this is a great place to live, work, and play, and that's what really matters.
What we're establishing here is just the beginning. It's the seed, and where this thing grows, I don't think any of us have any true idea except that it's going to grow big, and we know that we got the space to do it, we got the ambition to do it, we got the skill set to do it. So what I see happening over the next 10 years, it's not just going to happen at this cyber village, if you will. It's not going to happen just at this cyber center. There's going to be a lot of great things that happen there that's going to serve as a magnet to bring business and industry in. But as we start trying to serve the workforce needs for the existing business, that's going to bring additional business in. That's going to bring additional business in. It's going to mushroom out. Now, what's that going to mean for Augusta and for the community? It's the economic development things that surround this center on both sides of the river that I think is going to be the really exciting and the fun part to watch. As business come into this community because of what we have to offer here at the center, a unique, one-of-a-kind place in the country, they're going to be looking around and want to have the quality of life that you'd expect when you bring a business or a major company to town. The location of this place in downtown Augusta, steps away from Broad Street, which is really just exploding in terms of restaurants and bars and nightclubs and shops and entertainment and those sorts of things. The arts and humanities, the visual performing arts at Augusta University brings us a whole quality of life that we bring to this community. It's real rich, Augusta is, and that sort of thing. The school systems here, we're working with the school system to make sure that we reach all the way down to the elementary school level to try to get kids interested in going into this particular field, to make sure we have that pipeline of workforce that continues. That's going to be, I think, the exciting thing that's going to draw additional business in the industry here, and which is going to make this whole community grow and expand. This site, I'm told, is within 50, with access to over 50 miles of hiking and biking trails. You have the river and the canal system to be able to have all the outdoor things that go along with the quality of life that you expect to have when you bring a business to a community. So all that wrapped in together, I think, is going to make Augusta incredibly exciting for business, incredibly exciting for this sector of business and all the offshoots that come from it. And we're going to be serving a major catalyst of all that growth by providing that workforce, but also by providing the expertise that our faculty bring to the table and providing the expertise and the quality of life that our arts and humanities faculty can bring to the community and make it an attractive place to live.
Yeah, both Fortune and Forbes magazines have both pointed out the change that's happening in Augusta and the Fort Gordon Cyber District when it comes to cyber. It's really phenomenal what they've picked up, what's going on in the rest of the world. Unisys has offices in lots of places in the world. I personally have a global role where I'm traveling the world. What I'm seeing happening here in the Fort Gordon Cyber District is absolutely best of breed. Work, life, learn, play. These are all components of what it takes to be a cyber capital. You need to have the jobs. Well, the jobs are coming, both directly with the government and the contractors that are supporting all those missions that the government now has right down here. So those jobs are coming. So that's the work side of it. But you've also got to live. Our quality of life down here is fantastic. Low cost of living, high quality of life, lots of indoor-outdoor activities. You've got the river, you've got the downtown districts, you've got the suburban areas, you've got everything you could possibly want. Great music scene, great art scene, all self-contained in a pretty small, friendly southern town. So there's really a great place. So you've got work, you've got life and live, you've got learn. The university has really transformed itself, pivoted around the concept of cyber with undergraduate, now graduate programs in cybersecurity, taught not out of a book, but by some of the best real-world practitioners out of the NSA and other parts of the DoD that really have that real-world experience that you just need in order to be competitive in the marketplace. So work, live, learn, and play. You've got to have people, the people that you want in these jobs that want to live somewhere, they want to be in a group. They're not solo, they're not sitting around in their mother's basement. These are people that want to go out and have a good time. They want to have rooftop places to go listen to music. They want to have a vibrant downtown district. They want to be able to go out paddling on the river and have some fun and meet friends and do things that are athletic and healthy and positive. This region, this Fort Gordon Cyber District, has all those things and a lot more. So you're seeing things like the Augusta Innovation Zone opening up right downtown. It's dragging in really cool, innovative retailers so that you can have the shopping aspect of what people want. And you're seeing a lot of downtown condos and lofts being opened up and apartment living that these millennial-type practitioners really are looking for in that community of living. And you're seeing all the other activities not competing with each other, but coming together to make the Fort Gordon Cyber District that place, that single place, that best place in America for work, live, learn, and play in the cyber world. The other places that are in consideration, they cost way too much, or they don't have this piece, or it's too hard to get to that piece, or everything's right here, and I think that's why both Forbes and Fortune have really highlighted the fact that Augusta is really not only on the map for cyber, but is really headed to the top.
All right, so you heard Mr. Patterson talk a little bit about Forbes and Fortune and some of the rankings that our area has received recently. We have a lot of opportunities propelling us forward. We are being considered as one of the top 7 cities globally as an opportunity for growing cyber and being a cyber leader. From a panel perspective, GB, we'll start with you. What do you see as some of that opportunities Is that vision for Augusta something that you think we can achieve?
Obviously, yes, I think it's definitely we can achieve it. There's a lot of stuff to cover on there. When a lot of people think, how can Augusta kind of raise into the ranks of a London, Tel Aviv, Silicon Valley, and those type areas? Well, and Atlanta was on the list as well. I think it's when you combine the uniqueness of quality of life, I think is critical. Where we're located geographically is you have access to a lot of different things. We've talked about a lot of these things already. But I'd like to go to is also there's so much demand for these types of jobs. I've heard the statistics like you. I've heard it's going to be 2 million by 2020 of unfilled cybersecurity positions. I mean, the numbers are all over the place. And so what that tells you is when you look at where the communities, who's going to win the race, it's about who can produce the workforce. So it's not only recruiting the workforce, as Todd mentioned, but we've got to grow our own. And when you have a community like this one who's all galvanized behind the same vision and working with K-12, because you got to create awareness and build fundamental skills, then you work with the technical colleges and the community college and higher education universities to grow that workforce out, and then you bring in non-traditional education programs to help speed up training initiatives. That will grow our own and create opportunities for everyone. And with the regional effort we have here, cyber is non-discriminatory. There's opportunities for kids who just graduate high school to those who have PhDs and everything in between. It doesn't matter your demographic, your socio-demographic, your race, gender, nothing matters in cyber. If you got the skills, you got a job, and you're making lots of money. So the community is what we're doing here is galvanizing all the assets around that vision so we can not only attract the workforce, but with a long-term disciplined approach, we will create our own workforce that will just expedite and speed up the growth of our community. And so for all the things we talked about, it's the reasons we're on the list and we're climbing the list, but because of some of the grassroots things we're doing, because the community is collectively behind the vision of the Fort Gordon Cyber District, that's where we're going to rise to the top of the list and make the biggest change.
Excellent. John, you want to take a stab at the question as well?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things that's been mentioned earlier is Augusta has been known, particularly because you have so many different counties, and you've got more rural counties, you've got more urban counties, you have 2 different states in what we're calling the cyber district. There's historically been what sometimes is referred to as a high school football mentality, right, where this county or that county, this city versus that city. But in order to compete with some of the other cities on that list, Augusta is going to have to compete as a region. And I think that's a little bit of the genesis behind the cyber district concept is we don't have the population in just Richmond County or Columbia County or in Aiken or in North Augusta to compete on its own, right? You've got to pool all of these different resources together in order to compete with a city like Atlanta or San Antonio or Washington, D.C. So when you combine all those things together, it's pretty powerful, but that's only as good as the different factors and factions that are trying to work together. And so that's a lot of what has been happening recently is not just saying, hey, we need to come together, but we need to tell that story outside so that people who maybe previously saw, take the baseball stadium or whatever example you want to go to see that maybe people didn't work as well together as they should have, and to say, no, we've got a new mission, we've got a new goal, it's based around what's happening at Fort Gordon, and we want to take advantage of it. And so a lot of, I think, the battle and what we need to be continuing to do is exactly what the Alliance is doing, which is sort of telling the story of the cyber district in a new way. And it's a way that, something like TechNet, I went and talked to my parents, and they said, what are you doing this week? And I said, well, I'm speaking on a panel at TechNet. They said, what is that? And I said, it's 2 miles from your house, and it's 5,000 people from across the world that are coming here to talk about something that is probably one of the foremost issues in our world today. And they were like, oh, I didn't even know about it. And I said, how is that possible? And so there's a lot of great things that are happening in our region, but we still, I think, have a long way to go in telling the story of not only what's happening at Fort Gordon, but what's also happening in our area.
I think that's a great point on TechNet. For everybody in the room, I don't know how many locals actually really understand the impact of this conference and what it's grown to. The information we were just told is this conference is generating $2.7 million of economic impact in this week. That is a huge impact on this community, and we're only seeing that grow. That's just this piece. That's not counting everything else. So we're excited for those opportunities. We're going to try to keep the panel moving, but Todd, I want to give you a chance. You talk a good bit about some of your experiences abroad, and you've talked about the relationship between Beersheba and Tel Aviv, and comparing that to Augusta and Atlanta. You mind sharing a few insights on that?
Sure, and I understand that they may ask us to go again, so my name's on the list right away. Yeah, so we took a trip out about a year and a half ago now, and we went out to Israel to see what was going on in the cyber world there. Tel Aviv is one that was listed as one of the possible 7 that could become the cyber leader of the world. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal, and Augusta was on that list. But what we noticed is we spent some time in Tel Aviv, and then they took us down to Beersheba. So if you're not familiar with the area, Beersheba is out in the Negev, the desert. And what we were told is that several prime ministers had gone down there and had done big celebrations and cut ribbons to try to get everyone, okay, everyone move out of Tel Aviv and come here, because Tel Aviv is just becoming overwhelming, and nothing happened. And so several ribbon cuttings, you know, they put some cornerstones for the first building but they just didn't have any. And so then Prime Minister looked at Ben Gurion University and said, hey, this thing in cyber is no kidding. It's getting hot. We think we could be a leader here. And we want you to be the academic driver in Israel for that. And it was interesting because Ben Gurion University said, but we're not focused on technology. You know, we're out in the desert, so we do desert life, water purification, some of those things. And the Prime Minister said, yeah, that's great, but like you're a state-sponsored school, so you're going to do that. And so what they did was they did bring in some, you know, they seeded it with some folks that they brought in to help them out. But very rapidly also, they looked at the local community and said, look, it's great that we can bring people in, but this is hard work. And when it's hard work and people want to do it, they don't let it go. So there are some people in basements that do this just because they like to code, they want to do that. And when you're doing that, it's good to know that when you're doing that and your head's down and you're doing, you know, the nation's work, that your family's being taken care of, you're in a safe and secure area, you've got family because you grew up here. And so they saw the power of that. Similarly, at the same time, the Israeli Defense Force decided that they were going to move their signal and cyber forces out of Tel Aviv and move them down to Ben Gurion University, or in that area in Beersheba. Other companies saw that because they knew that no one stays in the IDF, no one stays in the Army forever, and so we're going to have folks that are not only trained but experienced in this. When they come out, we want to grab that workforce. And so we started looking at each other and said, okay, Tel Aviv was helping Beersheba to grow. Tel Aviv, Beersheba, Augusta, Atlanta, Ben Gurion University, Augusta University, pushing all the signal and cyber down, the Army's decision to put Army Cyber Command, and about 80% of the operational cyber forces here on Fort Gordon. We said we've got to follow this model, and that's what we see happening today.
And I think that's a great segue into the next piece on Augusta University on education. We're going to hear from Dr. Keel starting in just a moment. He's going to talk a lot about the Cyber Innovation and Training Center. Most of us, I think, know something about what's going on, but it's that state-based infusion of around $60 million to build this Cyber Innovation Campus to really grow cyber statewide. So anything from your University Systems of Georgia to the GBI to the Technical College System of Georgia as well are utilizing this campus, utilizing this resource in setting Augusta University as the driver. And I think it's great similarities to what Todd's talking about.
One is that, you know, we have to be nimble enough and creative enough to stay on the front edge of a field that's developing probably faster than any field has in anyone's recent memory. Certainly from a curriculum point of view, from an education, from a workforce training point of view, we've got to be as nimble as we possibly can to try to do that. What do I mean by that? We've got to not only provide the education in the classical sense that you think about. So we'll have degree programs that go from the bachelor's degree all the way through the PhD and those sort of things. But you have to offer the more precise type of certifications that have become industry standards. When a person moves from one job to the next, when a person applies for a particular job in this space, Their expectation is that he or she have certain training, and that training can come in any number of ways, and certainly certifications is a huge part of that. And as I say, there are industry standards around that. So we want to make sure we can offer that sort of industry standards certification from a curriculum point of view as well. The concept of the center is, from a training center, is to provide the full gamut from certifications all the way to advanced degrees. And we just need to make sure that we offer that full menu of curriculum type of training, that we stay nimble enough that we can change the curriculum on a dime to keep pace with the industry developments in this, to be open to industry and to make sure that we listen to them, for them to tell us what they're looking for when they hire individuals, to make sure that we can provide state-of-the-art training, and then to be aggressive enough to put those things in place in a timely fashion, so we can not only just be involved in cyber training and education, but that we can be plowing the field for the new cyber education that's going to be down the road. You know, in some ways, we have no idea what this means, and that, to me, is what the exciting thing is. You know, for Governor Deal to make that sort of commitment and the way that he did, it being in cash, it being such a large amount of money, it being driven in an area that's going to be developing, shows a tremendous amount of leadership and vision on his part. And the time frame that he put us under, we're on an incredibly accelerated time frame to put this whole program together. Design the program, design the space, take care of all the arrangements that you have to do when you build something like this, get it constructed, hire the faculty, hire the staff, and get the doors open, all in 18 months. But that's the kind of speed that we have to exhibit if we're all going to become the national leaders that we want to. So I mean, you can't think of enough words to describe it. I mean, you know, life-changing, game-changing, clearly are part of the vocabulary. Innovative, state-of-the-art, national leaders, all those things come into place. It's creating a facility not just to keep pace with what everybody else is doing, but to lead the way that everybody else is going to be following. And that, I think, is one of the most exciting things here. It takes advantage of all the things we have developing here in Augusta. It takes advantage of the huge opportunities that Fort Gordon brings to this community, especially in light of moving the Cyber Command to Fort Gordon. Takes advantage of the city of Augusta and the years that the city's been putting into developing it as a wonderful place to live, and to take advantage of that river. You know, our river's been here a long time, and we as a community, I don't think, are really taking advantage of what it brings to the table in terms of providing an environment that people want to not only come to work, but come to work and live, and stay, play, and get educated, to do all that in one location. And this center provides us with that opportunity. Well, that is one of the beauties of how this is being developed, is that it isn't just education, it isn't just government, it isn't just industry. It's all of that combined. The intention is to have in one building federal and state government, all the educational opportunities that you need at Augusta University certainly can bring to the table. Industry and private sector development that can be there. State agencies that need training and advancement in cybersecurity, and all the biomedical sciences and things that we offer on the health sciences campus from a research point of view. All that in one location. You want to build something that we've been thinking about for a long time that creates a cyber village. A place where people live and work and play and get educated, all in one facility, one location. You want a place where a student can walk out of the classroom, walk across the hall to do an internship. That's really going to be a main driving force for us to be able to recruit the type of students that we want to bring here, the very best in the country, because they know that they're not only get a good education here, but that education will quickly turn into an internship, which will quickly set them on a path to get hired the minute they graduate. In some cases, have a job even before they graduate. And that's what this environment of having all these entities in one building is going to allow us to do. Well, business comes to a community for all kinds of reasons, and I think many of us know what those reasons are, but clearly a business is not going to locate into a region, to a town, a community, without knowing that they're going to have the type of workforce that they need to carry out their business. So that's where the Augusta University, that's one of the reasons Augusta University can play a significant role in that. We will be providing that training for new employees that are hired, but also skill building for the employees that companies currently have, that continuing education process. And we can't do that in a vacuum. We've got to know what it is the business is looking for And as I've said before, we have to be nimble enough to stay on the front edge of that, the bleeding edge of that, if you will, in terms of where business and industry is going. So the partnership is absolutely critical. It's not just an entity that's sitting out there, an entity sitting over here that's going to train students, they're going to walk over here and get hired by this company. We got to interact from day one so that we make sure that we're teaching, that we're educating, that we're training like we need to be doing, and that we have relationships with business so students can get those jobs through the internship pipeline. We want to tell business that this is going to be the CyberCon Valley of the United States. This is where the stuff is going to be happening. And it's going to be everything that you can imagine, from what the Fort brings and NSA brings in terms of the more operational side of cyber, or the offensive side of cyber, if you will, to the chance to train business leaders in the industry about what it is to protect yourselves from being hacked and those sort of things. That's where all this stuff is going to happen. So we're going to tell business that, but more importantly than that, we're going to ask business, what do you need? We're going to be receptive to what business needs. We're going to take that information in a partnership fashion and put that into a curriculum. It's going to be put into a classroom. So it is not a one-way street here. It is the proverbial two-way street. We're going to be providing business with enough knowledge so they know what to look for here, but we're going to be looking to them to help us design this curriculum. And it is that partnership that's going to make this place so unique.
So let's continue the education conversation just a little bit. We're going to shift gears away from the higher ed piece. Let's talk more on the K through 12. Todd, you were extremely involved in the cyber curriculum, the partnerships that came together with that. ACE, can you tell the audience a little bit about that and where we stand today?
Sure. So I kind of touched on it a little bit. I got a phone call from the former garrison commander who was working with Karen Nixon and said, hey, we're trying to come together and put something together because we see that you have a need. And so that was neat to see the local area look at a need on Fort Worth and say, we want to be able to create a workforce to be able to fill the jobs that we see coming in the future. And so as we sat down, it was my first blush at a U.S. kind of kindergarten through high school educational system. And I just thought everyone operated like that because we had teachers from all of the counties, and everyone was willing to help, and so that was really great. And I didn't know until you get the feedback later that things just don't run up to the educational hierarchy to be able to be approved at the state level to be this is a new pathway that we want in our high schools. And since then, I've seen, there's tremendous focus at the high school level in those pathways and everything, and I think that is, as Mr. Keel said, that is a unique thing that this area is really focused on, is how do we solve the problems in this area, not necessarily just for the nation. That's great that we'll provide solutions for the nation, but Savannah Riverside, you have some needs. How do we produce a workforce to be able to do that? And so it was just a natural thing for the local area to sit down and do that. So we got together and we worked, and that's where I think DB and I met during those times as well. And down that line, we didn't just figure out, let's get something to go through, but the National Institute of Standards and Technology, they're putting out a framework for others to follow, again, to help that definition of what is cyber, what are these things. And so we focused at those nominal type positions that hopefully organizations and industry, like some of you represent here, could use. And we created a curriculum that starts in 9th grade and goes through 11th grade, with the 12th grade being an internship. And so that's kind of the partnerships that the schools are looking for now. You have the ability, the unique ability, to be able to get into the high schools. So when we went to see Bershevo, that was easy because they have mandatory military assignments. And so the IDF is able to go right now into kindergarten and start to find out the folks that have an aptitude for this, and they walk them all the way up. Well, we can't do that as a military. We have certain laws and rules, and for good reasons based on our history of our nation. But nothing precludes you from being a volunteer and helping and being that carrier again. If your organization is short today on individuals that have cyber experience, then you get to snap link in with the local schools the university, you just saw the president there welcome, you to come and help out as well and help shape that curriculum so that when that output it comes out of those schools, when they come out of the post-secondary schools, they're filling the exact needs that you have. And I think the community continues to do that, which makes us excited.
Excellent. GB, you have a very strong experience in education, training, and that development. Can you talk about your experiences and what you're bringing to this community with the Alliance?
So, in my last previous life, I built a national education program that was ultimately funded by the Department of Homeland Security to reach every state and every U.S. territory. And so it was a K-12 curriculum that infused cyber and cybersecurity into the everyday classroom. And the whole model was built on sustainability, which meant we focused on teacher development. So we provided free curriculum, free resources, and free training to teachers all over the country so that they could take it back to their classroom and truly transform the way they engage their students. And so why is that important? Two things. One, this generation of learners is very different from us. They have been born, my kids are 5, 3, and 1, and my 3-year-old can already operate the iPad better than my mother, and my 5-year-old wrote her first line of code when she was 4. And so we must change the way we engage these students because they learn differently, and they have been brought up in a very different world than we were. But our classrooms, if you look back, have not changed with that pace. So it's really about helping teachers and getting, when they were going through school, they may not be aware of some of these things. So it's really with teacher development. The other thing is cyber touches every aspect of our life, but you still need very basic fundamental math and science skills and problem-solving skills. So what we did is we infused the cyber content and cyber learning and provided cyber as a context for the math and science that they're learning. So they're doing engineering, but like building a harp, but in third grade they're building a harp, but they have to play a musical instrument that unlocks a safe that has classified documents. They have to decrypt those documents, and so you start infusing security clearances and concepts of that with encryption and decryption and why all the things happen. So that's kind of a life that we're very proud of and what we built there in that National Center of Excellence. We are already engaged that center, and the gentleman that I trained up and to be to replace me when I left, he's coming down in a couple of weeks to meet with the local superintendents and the local teachers, and working with the university, Augusta University, to go ahead and start scheduling workshops to get those programs in here. And it's not just that program, but there's other national programs that are well recognized, well vetted, well funded by the federal government that we're bringing to the community, and it's free to the community, and so that they can take advantage of these resources and infuse them into the classroom. Because if you don't get a student engaged by the time they're in middle school, you've almost lost them. And you definitely can't wait to high school to engage them. They're already on a trajectory. So we're focused on kindergarten, even younger. We're focused on elementary and middle school, and it's all around teacher development. And we're going to see those workshops rolling out in the region in the Fort Gordon Cyber District starting in August.
Robbie, I really like that model because we can change, the whole A is for Apple, B is for beta, C is for computer, D is for disk, E is for Ethernet.
That's good. Very good. Well, we still have more in our program, but want to take a moment, open up for some questions. Karen has a microphone in the back. We are being recorded, so we do ask you to use the microphone, but any questions for our panelists so far? Got one up here in the front.
We can repeat the question if we want, if she asks.
Go ahead.
Go up.
Yeah, so is the cost of living going to go up? The question, so it's recorded, I guess, with all the growth. Yes, the cost of living will go up. One of our guys just tried to move here, and he had a heck of a time finding a house. As fast as he put an application in, they were off the market. But no, it's one of the benefits, right? I wish I had a bunch of money and I could be buying a bunch of real estate right now, because in 10 years what that will look like. But even with the increases, you're still going to be far below what I've seen in the national averages with DC and California, San Antonio, and other areas. I believe even with the increases, you'll still have great, you'll still be a great value play, and your real estate.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, you look at inventory levels are down nationwide, right? That's both in housing and in multifamily, and Augusta is no different. But what we do have is a lot more developable land in the cyber district than most areas. So DC, other places like that. We do have the Savannah River, but you don't have too many national or sort of geographical barriers to development around here. A lot of land is still relatively cheap compared to national averages. So like you said, and like GB said, with more growth comes more demand, and that normally brings prices up. But with inventory levels so low, we've still got a lot of room to run in terms of putting product on the ground, which should help keep that cost of living down.
So this issue is pretty near and dear to my heart as someone who came here as a service member, decided to stay in the area after completing my contract. I looked at some jobs in California, where I'm from, looked at some jobs in the DC area. A big reason that I decided to stay here is that I can't stand traffic, and it's really easy to get to work here. Now, obviously, I've been here for a few years. I've seen traffic increase. I think there's a lot of work being done in terms of services, amenities, education. I'm curious if anyone's reached out to the local government to try to figure out what the solution is going to be in terms of roads going forward, maybe public transportation, maybe bikeable, walkable communities, because that's actually really important to me, just as important as having jobs and education.
So I'm probably not the best person to answer this. Robbie probably is, but I know the Alliance is working with the leadership from different communities across the different mayors and officials from across the counties, and there is hundreds of millions of dollars being invested right now to do that, to address that.
And I'm probably not the best person. Tammy and Sue, all means, are going to be your best contacts for that. But the transportation piece is a regional piece. You have the arts. Regional transportation study that's looking at that walkability, that community, that connectivity across the region. You have, in our area, you had T-SPLOS that our chambers fought very hard to get. Just to put in perspective, I believe $850 million over a 10-year period for a 13-county region. That is a lot of infusion of infrastructure capital. That's not counting the SPLOS funds and other funds that the communities are putting in and doing that ahead of time. Put in perspective, if we had not passed that as a region, we would be 5-10 years behind where we are today, at least. So those conversations are happening. To a certain degree, it may not be as vocal or in front of the community as people would like, but traffic very much is still one of the premier conversation pieces. But even with the level of traffic we have, your commute time is still around 25 to 30 minutes. So again, perspective between the two. Other questions?
Yeah, I would just add to that too, that a lot of the studies and the groups that are being used, a lot of these consultants are in a lot of cities that have been able to attract and retain millennials. And so you are seeing not just, hey, how can we make traffic better for people that are driving cars, but also bike paths, walk paths. I mean, you think about that corridor and how it's changing between the two Augusta University campuses, for example, right? Between the Somerville campus along Walton Way and then the downtown campus. And so if you look at Walton Way and Central Avenue, right, growing up, I would never try to ride my bike on Walton Way. I probably wouldn't do it today. But if you look at a lot of the studies that they've done and the consultants that they've tried to come into contact with and that are using, when you get the bus system going up and down and you get bike paths put in and then people sort of get used to over time seeing pedestrians, seeing people on bikes, you all have to learn how to use the road together. And so I think that's a big sign of encouragement, at least locally, is that a lot of these groups that are being engaged are looking at what does a walkable, bikeable, livable community look like.
When you look at Broad Street, the investment going downtown, and you look at what's going on in North Augusta and their big development, and then there's already talk about how to connect both sides of the river without having to get in a car and drive. I mean, it is an issue that's actually, it's every meeting I've been in where there's government folks talking and leadership, it's always come up, so.
So I'd like to add as well, just for two reasons. Number one, I'm envious of your hair, not just the color, but the fact that you have it. But also the fact that, so Dr. Keel talked about being on the bleeding edge. And so I think that's something as a community we have to have messaging. because we have to have a vision of where we're going to be, not necessarily where we are, because it's going to get messy. It's going to get messier. If we do this right, there's going to be a lot of construction. We're looking at this in Fort Gordon, and we're looking at what's going to happen over the next 8 years with roads being stopped, all those kinds of things. But I'll share with you that a museum is a very neat and orderly place, and a delivery room is very chaotic and sometimes messy. One celebrates life, the other celebrates death. I think we're on the right side. We just have to have that vision.
Not so much a question, but as I listened to all three of you, just some considerations that I thought about, and basically it comes in 3 points. And Chief, like you as a minister, I deliver things in 3 points. One of them is impact, the second one is opportunity, and then the third one is second and third order effects. So John, I listened to you as you were talking, and so I actually consider this as it relates to impact. What organizations and businesses will come to this area that can provide a positive impact, meaning they can provide a plan? And you talked about this a little bit, but I actually consider helping those businesses or organizations that can provide a positive impact to this area, that may not have the necessary resources, but you can connect them to the necessary resources if they have a legitimate plan that provides a positive impact. Second thing is opportunity. And so GB, I listened to you and also submit this to you that we talked a lot about cyber, but let me dial back and don't even say anything about cyber. Let's talk about the businesses, and you alluded to this, that will come as a result of the things related to cyber that provide that support. For instance, some statistics say that for every job, it comes with 3.5 number of family. And so if we talk about last year when some of the businesses talked about the additional jobs they were bringing, ADP, Unisys, now with the Cyber Integration Center, our cyber, all those. And if you go with the 3.5 number and multiply that, what type of infrastructure is it going to take to support that? Hospitals, schools, playgrounds, shopping centers, restaurants, you talked about all those. But then for the mom and pop folks that would not normally have the monies to come in, how can we help them with those additional opportunities? And so then, Chief, one of the things you talked about that definitely brought to my mind is second and third order effects or effects. Again, not even talking about cyber in itself, because we've discussed that, but what other partners and organizations other than cyber that will come in that can have an effect on our infrastructure? When you go out gate 1 and you hang a left, I remember when I got here in 2014, that whole area was woods, was grass. If you go out gate 1 and hang a left, now you see whole housing communities. And so now my question is, even in that area, what grocery store, what medical, what schools, all those things that because of the second and third order effects of what's happening in the cyber district are going to affect that. People are going to need assistance with opportunities. People are going to need assistance with establishing themselves. It could be a small organization now, but by the assistance that you guys can provide them, by the guidance you guys can provide them, here's another opportunity for them to grow from a small mom and pop to a legitimate organization that can support this area. Thank you.
I know we don't have much time, but we didn't get this earlier. I want to address one of the things. You bring up a great point about guiding and mentoring and so forth. What we're working with the Innovation Zone, the Clubhouse, is we've got a national expert in entrepreneurship and how to build innovation communities to bring in programs that are free to entrepreneurs to help them understand how to grow their business. And so we're bringing in programming for entrepreneurs to help them build their business. We're also helping build a capital network to infuse capital into those startups, because 85% of net new jobs come from small business. So small businesses working with, like the Innovation Zone, the Clubhouse, and others, is to focus on that. On the opportunities, the good thing about mom and pops, the millennials, they don't like big box stuff. They like, the research shows they like, you know, kind of new, kind of unique vibe, kind of restaurants and dives to hang out. And so I think there's a great opportunity for that, and you've got some great ones here already. And on the effects on the economic development side is, I know Robbie and Walter are two that are working tirelessly to bring in those, the challenges that growth has is how do you get ahead of that, and the chambers are working together to figure out how to stay ahead of the curve and bring in those resources.
No, I think that's a great point, and your comments are wonderful. So you're going to now be on the panel to start going with us and making sure leadership fully knows that. We are about out of time. There is another session in here after this. I'm going to play a quick video after we finish talking. You're free to go if you want to. It's on that transformation of leadership, the role leadership plays. It addresses some of those comments. But again, this is a regional effort. There's a reason that the chambers, the economic development, the tourism, the universities, and business leaders are all working together on this. We see the opportunity, and we want to make sure that our community has the opportunity to grow, to bring in those new businesses. The problem is we don't necessarily know what that's going to look like, but we know we have the opportunity for it to be big.
So leadership is a great question. Because a region does take leadership. You don't stumble into becoming a cyber capital for America. It has to be a plan. You have to have people with passion and strong backbone in order to make it happen. And we've got a lot of those here in the Fort Gordon Cyber District already. I know when Unisys moved down here, you know, we at a ribbon cutting, wasn't just the local leadership, but the governor came down. Governor Deal came down because he saw that cyber was so critically important to this, and that the cyber businesses and the cyber jobs that were moving down here were so critically important. He came down himself and literally cut the ribbon with us. Governor Deal's been widely supportive, not only of what Unisys is growing in the region, but also with the new $50 million state investment down for the cyber center right down by us on the river, right outside of the convention center. And so he's been, from the state level, really terrific. You not only have local leaders like the mayor and the council. A lot of the councilmen have been very, very strong and supportive of what's going on in cyber. The different EDAs, the economic development organizations from the different counties have been coming together to show this is what our part of this whole story is, and really showing people that whatever they want can be found here. And that really takes a lot of leadership and personal, executive leadership. And I know I've worked with a lot of the EDA teams, and they're fantastic. And you've also got university leadership. Dr. Keel, when he's joined in at Augusta University, it's been transformative. He understands cyber, he gets it. The mayor is a Georgia Tech grad and understands technology, deep in his bones and his DNA. Really having that kind of leadership is terrific. The other half of that coin, though, is the non-political leadership. The business leadership I've been really impressed with here. We've got young entrepreneurs, age 30 and under type entrepreneurs that are running some of the best businesses and charities in town. And they're really doing it in a very aggressive way. So we've got a great concert series put together in a nonprofit way, run by George Clausen, who's terrific. We've got some local business people that grew up in the local schools and then went out and just started their own company.